Hello, I am the OBG and welcome to the OBG show. And a bit of a fluster tonight, nothing new there. Just making sure I've got everything right, levels and so on. You can hear the sound, I'm sure. If you're a talker, let me know. Levels look okay. Okay, so if you're new here, hello, I am the OBG and welcome to the OBG show. So tonight I thought I'd do a little bit more about Corona Schomona. And before that, I just want to say, I hope you've all had a wonderful day. If not, work through whatever it is. And I've seen that some of my friends have lost loved ones recently also. So I'm sending my condolences and wanting for you to come back to being able to continue living pain-free and living fruitful lives. And I want to send a special shout out to Jason Corcoran because I know you've lost two people very recently. And I know the pain, Jason. So, you know, I'll see you on the dance floor someday when I come back to England. And if I can just say a little bit about Jason, not regarding so much the losses, but just to say that Jason's one of those people that I met, you know, in London on the party scene and so on. And the first time I saw him, I was a little bit, you know, wary because sometimes you go to these parties and, you know, they're in an area you've never been in. There's, you know, some South London bad boys are likely going to turn up. I mean, young uns like 25, 26-year-olds, and they're fearless, you know. And sometimes you have to clock people. And I looked at Jason, and I thought, wow, he's a lump. He's a lump, and he looks serious. And I got talking to him through his other mate. I forget his name actually, the Millwall guy, and he's an amazing human being. Got a heart that big, and he works as a scaffolder, which I think is one of the more noble jobs. I think scaffolders and hod carriers. You're a man if you can do those, and I try not to put the labels on, but I think to myself that's a job that not many people can do. I'm a grafter. I'm always got energy. I'm not a heavy lifter. I'd outlast anybody and run the furthest distance, but I can't lift the heaviest stuff. But a scaffolder or a bricklayer, hod carrier, they're two jobs I never ever thought I could do, even with that level of fitness. So yeah, good on you, Jason. Keep smiling, and I hope you know you manage to work your way through your pain and get back as soon as you can. Love you, man. Okay. So let's get back onto the serious stuff tonight. So tonight I want to talk about Corona Schomona. I want to talk about I call it part C because I keep doing them disjointed, and it's not really an error for me. It's not a problem as such, but you know, when I say I'm going to deliver, I deliver. Right. So let's get on with this. I'm going to do a filler, I think. I forget what number it is. Okay, got it. Boom. Okay, so I only made this today, so I'm going to have to read the details and the names and the credentials of a printout, and then I'll just paraphrase what I had to say about the current crisis. So do stick with me. So what I'm going to talk about is really there were 12 of them, in fact, on something that I read. They're doctors who had something to say about the coronavirus, and these are experts. So I'm going to read out a little bit about their credentials, and then I'm going to talk about some of the things that they said. So let's start with Dr. Sukarit Badke, and he's a specialist in microbiology, and he was a professor at Johannes Gutenberg University in Mainz, and he was the head of the Institute for Medical Microbiology and Hygiene, and he was one of the most cited research scientists in German history. And he said, we're afraid that 1 million infections with the new virus will lead to 30 deaths per day over the next 100 days. But we don't realise that 20, 30, 40 or 100 patients positive for normal coronaviruses are already dying every day. And he actually said the government's anti-COVID-19 measures are grotesque, absurd, and they're very dangerous. The life expectancy of millions of people is being shortened, and the horrifying impact on the world economy threatens the existence of countless people, and that the consequences on medical care are profound. And he was also direct about stating that these measures are leading to destructive collective suicide based on nothing but a spook. And doctor number 2, that was Wolfgang Wodarg. Vodag, and he's a German physician specialising in pulmonology, and he's a politician and former chairman of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe. Way back in 2009, he called for an inquiry into the alleged conflicts of interest surrounding the EU's response to the flying swine flu pandemic. And Dr. Wolfgang, he said politicians are being courted by scientists, and he mentioned that scientists are the type of people who want to be important to get money for their institutions, and scientists who just want to swim along with the mainstream and also want a part of it. And what's missing right now, in his own words, as he said, is a rational way of looking at things. So he also added in his statement that we should be asking questions like, how do you find out this virus is dangerous? How was it before? And didn't we have the same thing last year? It's even questionable as to whether it is something new. And now doctor number 3, that's Dr. Joel Kettner, who's a professor of Community Health Sciences and Surgery at Manitoba University, former Chief Public Health Officer for Manitoba Province, and Medical Director of the International Centre for Infectious Diseases. And Dr. Joel, he said that he'd never seen anything like this. Anything, anywhere near like this. And he said that he's not talking about the pandemic because he's seen 30 of them, one every single year, and it's actually called influenza. And other respiratory illnesses, we don't even know what they are, but they've never seen or found cures for those infections, and he can't understand why they're reacting to this one this way. And then there's Dr. Ioannidis, who's a professor of medicine, of health research and policy at the Biomedical Data Center at Stanford University School of Medicine, and a professor of statistics at Stanford University School of Humanities and Sciences. And he's also the editor-in-chief of the European Journal of Clinical Investigation. And on top of all this, he's made contributions to the evidence-based medicine, epidemiology, data science, and clinical research. That's not bad, credentials. And he said if we hadn't known about a new virus out there and hadn't checked individuals with PCR tests, the number of total deaths due to the influenza-like illness would not seem unusual. And he added to that, at most, we might have casually noted that flu this season seems to be a bit worse than average. How's that for you? And then there's Dr. Yoram Les, who's an Israeli physician, politician, former Director General of Health. And Dr. Lass said, if you remember at the start, Italy had a high number of fatalities reported, and Italy is known for its enormous morbidity and in respiratory problems, and they're 3 more times likely than other European countries to catch these illnesses. And the figures from the US, this is at the time, they show that about 40,000 people die in a regular flu season. And he also stated that whoever thinks that governments end viruses is wrong. Now, I've only got 3 more to do. And number 6, that's Dr. Frank Ulrich Montgomery, who's a German radiologist and former president of the German Medical Association and deputy chairman of the World Medical Association. And Dr. Ulrich said, I'm not a fan of lockdown. Anyone who imposes something like this must also say when and how to pick it up again. And since we have to assume that the virus will be with us for a long time, then he said that he wondered when it will return to normal. Now, let me just pause for a moment. The people that initiated the lockdown, they've done so for their own good reasons. And once again, it's simply a part of the Great Reset. And I don't yet know enough about how they plan to pull us out into the new normal or when. And one of the other oddities that I actually came across, that's about the concerted effort to block the sales and administration of hydroxychloroquine. Now, studies have shown that the rate of infection and deaths is very low in African countries, very low. And I knew that the drug was used in those countries, as regular as we use aspirin, and it's sold without prescription. Now, Regil Streeps on Facebook, he informed me that they call it the Sunday tablet, as they take it on Sundays, a pick-me-up if they're feeling low. And he said that it costs pennies over there, and it has been proven to be effective for 50 years. And in his inimitable style, he said, you can't depopulate the planet and wreck economies unless you have a fearful disease. However, it's such a powerful disease that a simple, cheap drug and proper nutrition keeps it at bay. So they have to find a way to discredit it. And this has been evident in the state. And there's also a vast profit to be made by falsifying the creation of a new vaccine and selling it wholesale to the world. Anyway, moving on to the final 2, there's Dr. Professor Henrik Streeck, who's a German HIV researcher, epidemiologist, and clinical trialist. And he's professor of virology and the director of the Institute of Virology and HIV Research at Bonn University. All these people are top-level people, are well noted, and he stated that the new pathogen isn't that dangerous. It's even less dangerous than SARS-S1, and the special thing is that SARS-CoV-2 replicates in the upper throat area, and it's therefore much more infectious because the virus jumps from throat to throat. But that is advantageous because SARS-1 replicates in the deep lungs, and it's not so as infectious, but it's definitely more dangerous. And then finally, we've got Professor Hendrik Streeck, who's a German HIV researcher, epidemiologist, and clinical trialist. And he's professor of virology and the director of the Institute of Virology and HIV Research at the Bonn University also. So I think I read that just then, didn't I? Sorry, the last one is Dr. David Katz, who's an American physician and founding director of the Yale University Prevention Research Center. And he voiced his opinion that he was deeply concerned that the social, economic, and public health consequences of this near total meltdown of normal life isn't good. And he said that businesses and schools closed and gatherings banned will be long-lasting and calamitous, and possibly worse than the direct toll of the actual virus itself. And like many others, he said that the stock market's going to bounce back in time, but many businesses never will. That unemployment, impoverishment, and despair likely to result will be a public health scourge of the first order. And who can argue with that? Now, these people, they're the best in their field, or they're the most noted, and it would do good to listen to what they have to say. Also, later on last year, around September, a group of over 500 medical doctors in Germany, called Doctors for Information, they made a shocking statement during a national press conference, and they boldly stated the corona panic is a play, it's a scam, a swindle. It's high time we understood that we're in the midst of a global crime. Now, you couldn't make your view any clearer than that. Now, the group of doctors or medical doctors have a publication that reaches over 500,000 people, and they're well received and respected. And they were the people behind the massive rally in Berlin last year. And also at the same time in Spain, a group of 600 medical doctors called Doctors for Truth, they made a similar statement during a press conference, the Spanish this is, where they said COVID-19 is a false pandemic created for public purposes. This is a world dictatorship with a sanitary excuse. We urge doctors, the media, and political authorities to stop this criminal operation by spreading the truth. Now, you may be asking why I'm sharing old news, and the reason is simply that it's been around for the longest time, and it hasn't been disproved. None of these stories have been compromised, and I treat these as facts, and I want you to as well. Now, I have much new data with me also, ready for processing and reporting, but it's still fresh. And while you're all being complacent, there's no need for the fresh off-the-press stuff yet. So, remain calm and remain alert for the clarion call. And remember, switch off your TVs. Right, I didn't want to do this actually, but I'm gonna end up doing it. Shit, I keep forgetting what number it is. Let me end that. Okay. I mentioned TV there, and I didn't want to go on. I was going to end it there, but this is in my mind. It's fresh still. And you know how I feel about TV. So, everything that we watch on television, that we watch, including me, I don't watch telly, I don't, do television, but, every now and then, and very rarely, someone recommends a series, and I might get into it. I've only watched 5 series in about 25 years, but what I mean is sometimes I may take a look, and then I give up on the second episode. But everything that we watch is controlled by our masters, and all the things that we perceive become part of us. And for most people, it's easier to let somebody else do their thinking for them. And we're flooded with so much propaganda. And this is the way that the TV and all the media works. Nearly all of the information that people take in, especially now during the lockdown, comes from the television. Now, people are even kidding themselves, and I hear this all too often. They say, well, I don't actually watch telly. And what they're doing, they're fooling themselves into thinking it doesn't count if they watch programs on their phone, on their tablets, or on their laptops. And it's the same thing. The medium's the same. Experts create programs and they deliver them to you. A highly censored and carefully constructed message is hidden within them, and they come either directly or indirectly. And it doesn't matter if it's what we call subliminal or blatant. If you experienced it, then it happened, it's there. And the difference being that the subliminal messages hit the subconscious and cloak the message, making it difficult to know that you've actually taken on this, like assault, whether it's, visual or oral. Now, the impact of watching so much television shouldn't be taken lightly. There's been a steady decline in our personal interaction as we lock into electronic devices, feeding us continuous nonsense and vying for our attention with alerts and carefully crafted methods of engaging us endlessly. And the main issue being that we're feeding our heads with rubbish that's been produced by the elite. It always comes from the highest level and filters down. Almost all news and TV programming actually comes from a small group of people in the form of news, what they call news, television series and films. And there have been mergers of the big film studios and the newspapers over the last century that control us. And where they were smaller companies before, they may have expressed different views, but they've become these monolithic structures that propagate a single view. And these giants include, but isn't limited to, the BBC, ABC, Fox, Disney to corrupt the children, Comcast, and of course the social media and tech giants that form the G Mafia, which comprises of Google, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, Instagram, and Amazon, each pulling in our data, pushing us into a particular demographic and feeding us with what they deem to be the best for us. Now, the world doesn't change that fast, yet a simple message voiced by the media regarding the state of the world will turn the minds of many from depressed to joyful at their will. Messages such as, this is going to be a fantastic Christmas with spending at a record high, even before the event occurs. And devious reporting such as this creates a false sense of well-being, and it's simply being used as a device to drive consumer spending. Most people don't care about or even think about the world as a whole. And don't forget, the world used to be considered as the universe. But in the last century, it's been whittled down to mean the Earth. If you type in the world in Google, it will show you the picture of planet Earth. And thinking of the world like that limits our scope and retards our view of the endless possibilities that could lay ahead. It deters us from expanding our minds. If you think you live in a box with nothing but a dream of the least likely probability of life beyond it, what would encourage you to build beyond that? The very thought of thinking beyond what those who wield the power with their expertise and knowledge never crosses most people's minds. Everything's created for us. Everything's presented to us. Now, you may have heard of the name Edward Bernays. If not, look him up. Very interesting character. He's an Austrian-American pioneer in the field of public relations and propaganda. And he once said, who are the men who, without our realizing it, give us our ideas? Tell us whom to admire and who to despise, what to believe about the ownership of public utilities, about the tariff, about the price of rubber, about the Dawes Plan, about immigration, who tell us how our houses should be designed, what furniture we should put in them, what menus we should serve on our table, what kind of shirts we must wear, what sports we should indulge in, what plays we should see, what charities we should support, what pictures we should admire, what slang we should affect, what jokes we should laugh at. Now, this is what he said, and he's talking about where does this come from? Now, at the time, you've got to remember this was like the 30s. Edward's advertising was like common, like on the television. They was pushing it at people, but what he did was significantly different. And his method wasn't to openly sell products as the other people were doing, or to seek promotion of a particular product in the same way that the other companies did. Instead, Bernays would set out to change the opinions of the general public, creating demand which would indirectly boost the fortunes of the companies that employed him. And he was actually the person responsible for spreading the idea through various means, and check this out, this is funny, that smoking was an alternative to candy and desserts, and that tobacco helped people lose weight. And he followed that up in 1929 with something spreading the idea that cigarettes meant freedom, and that's something that was still prevalent in adverts up until they were banned from television. Now, he wrote a book called Propaganda, which I'd recommend. It's a good read if you're interested in seeing ideas around how easily we're manipulated. So whether it's information for good or disinformation, we're easily manipulated as groups. And the trick that they're using now is repetition and newspeak, to coin the George Orwell term. And the new normal and Build Back Better are just two of the latest assaults on our minds, and they're propagated daily. You see it on all the media channels, you hear it on the media channels, and even the politicians, everyone's saying it at those levels. Now, there have been numerous studies that relate to the suggestibility of human beings under the influence of fear, and this is a crux. This is the crux of everything, in order to usher in their new world order under the less insidious title of the Great Reset. The engineers have pushed us into a stage of fear, with the media spreading stories of the coronavirus and silencing those that speak out against it. Now, in experiments conducted by a researcher by the name of Herbert Krugman, it was revealed that when a person watches television, brain activity switches from the left to the right hemisphere. And I'm not too keen on the idea of left and right hemisphere brain control, but this is what they state. And the left hemisphere is the seat of logical thought. And here information is broken down into its component parts and it's critically analysed. But the right brain treats incoming data uncritically, processing information in wholes, leading to emotional rather than logical responses. And that shift from the left to right of the brain activity also causes the release of endorphins, which are our body's natural opiates, which in short means it's possible to become physically addicted to watching television. And numerous studies have shown that very few people are actually able to kick their television habit. And it's no longer an overstatement to note that the youth of today that are raised and taught through network television are, dare I say, intellectually dead by their early teens. Millennials, meh. Now, people are stuck on the televisions. All media channels are focused on maintaining the high level state of fear, enabling us to be easily controlled. I'm sick of it. I want for more people to look the other way and to release themselves from the grip of television, from the grip of fear. And this is what the coronavirus is. We need to build a better mental image of the world, and we can only do that by disengaging from watching television and from absorbing the news that's pushed onto us every day. Switch off your TV. I'm mad, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I am the OBG. I'm looking for a filler. Damn, I'm a mad one. Okay, so that wraps it up for tonight. If anyone wants to talk about any of those subjects, I'm open to conversation. And New World Chaos, yeah, well, chaos is okay. When there's chaos, then we work towards perfection, and we work, even though that's an idealistic view, but we work towards it at least. But when there's order, what is there to do? So if everyone tells, if ever you're told that everything's in order, well, it means that someone's controlling you, or controlling your ideas, or they're trying to fool you into believing that everything's okay. And that gives you a sense of calm. You drop your guard, you think everything's in order, and then you're easily controlled. If you live in chaos, you want to keep on finding control. You want to keep on finding order. That's my view on that one. So pop over, Jade. I'll give you a hug. And I'm not being lewd to anyone before you write comments. The movie 3 Days Later made me feel like I was on speed. I don't know the movie, actually. I'll take a look. Don't fall for the dialectic. Absolutely. And it's hard not to sometimes, David, but I know, like, you and I, we have these conversations and you study a lot. You don't watch television. And it's not about taking a higher ground with the people who are watching. What I mean is I want people to experience it. It's like, I don't know if you've ever met or at least seen it depicted, or read about a drug addict when they come off their drugs. They talk about being so involved in it and not knowing anything else. And, it just seems right. And this is what television is. Everything, oh, well, it's just telly. It's entertainment. People keep making excuses for their addiction. And the point is you have to pull yourself away from it and look the other way sometimes. And you say, well, I don't watch it every day. No, but you watch it enough. You turn on the news. It doesn't just come to you and you tell them, let's watch the news at 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, turn over the other channel, 5 o'clock and so on. And now on the new medium, because it tries it on me. What I do is I deliberately look at particular things. So Facebook algorithms start feeding me more of what I think I want to see. And I put a lot of random stuff in as well. So I get stuff I don't want to see. And the beauty of that is it doesn't keep me engaged because I'm thinking, what do I want Polish t-shirts for? And I realise, oh yeah, I've put Polish in my place of origin. And then I joined some knitting groups and I joined other stuff. So all rubbish comes up. Now you may think it's going in, and it may well do, but my mind's saying, oh, this doesn't mean anything to you, and I get rid of it. Whereas if I keep taking the things I like, every time I see something that relates to what I like, I'm like, oh wow, and I'm clicking on the adverts and, you know, wondering what's going on, and they're sending me news around those areas, and that doesn't work. You have to learn how to kind of hack that system. So let's have a look. Throw the telly out the window. Yeah, be careful. Maybe someone below. But yeah, you know, in fact, you don't need to throw your telly away, I don't think, Justice. Say more on that if you will. But, you know, we want to be entertained as human beings. So sometimes, you know, you want to switch off, you know, as a method of relaxing, and you just want to watch something specific, and it can be delivered through the telly. Nearly all of it's controlled anyway, don't get me wrong. But if you've got an open mind and you're educated enough, you know, you may say to yourself, you know what, I'm going to watch that movie tonight with Tom Cruise, or, you know, Betty Davis or something. And you get entertainment for that 1.5 hours, and you've managed to pull away, and you realise, wow, it was a film. Because the thing that happens to me, because I don't watch telly, when I do turn it on, I've said this time and time again, I'm sorry, but it's just like, wow, he's got lipstick on. And I think, oh yeah, they're garish. They paint their faces and everything. But you don't notice it when you watch telly all the time. But if you're off of telly for so long, whenever you go on, everyone on, you know, and I don't watch these programs, I'm talking if I'm at a friend's house or something. Most of my friends don't watch it anyway. I'm like, that guy's got lipstick on, you know, on a TV quiz show or something, because the host has got so much makeup on. And I never used to notice it before because it was a normal for me. And then there's all the lies and all the rubbish. I've got friends who say, oh man, you've got to watch this. I go, no, I don't got to watch nothing, because they're used to the rubbish, and it just keeps on serving them more rubbish, and that's their level. And that's one of the things I do hold myself higher than people in life. I'm like, whoa, when you come off the telly, your brain just starts getting filled up with real life, and it just turns you into a different person. And when you see the rubbish on telly, you just spot it a good 99% of the time. You think, what a load of bollocks. Well, what's that all about? You know, we're adults watching television. They know we're adults because it's like, you know, midnight. And I'm talking about not small children watching at least. And they're like, hello, I'm a big red telephone. What about some insurance? And it's like, what? Hello, I'm a meerkat, telling, you know, like adult products to adults and all that. And it's like, fuck's sake. They know they've got these childlike brains watching television. And so they keep on pushing them and sending them false messages. It's like lying to your children, basically. It's cold here. You are in paradise. Oh, she likes the old movies. Where are you, Justice, by the way? It's warm over here. Like, this is my like indoor clothes when I do Raw shows, you know. But they've got no heating on. I only used a tiny bit of heating a couple of weeks ago. We had a really cold spell. But yeah, my windows are open. It's not like hot, but you know, it's not cold, which is good. And in the daytime, the sun's out. You can sit on a bench somewhere, and I'm sure, you know, you Caucasian get tan right now over here. Oh, you are in the UK? Didn't realise. Okay. So yeah, I saw you guys were getting like 4 degrees and stuff, and we had a bit of a spell of 18 up to like 23 degrees just recently, which is bloody good. Anyway, on that note, just one thing before you go, folks, which I think is very important, and I have to do it. You know what's coming. The OBG show runs on donations alone. If you enjoyed tonight's show, you learned anything, send £1 or a few more. If you want to help the OBG show move into the future, please consider sending a donation, a larger donation. Thank you for hearing me. I am the OBG. I've got to be serious about this. I've got to be serious about it. And by the way, if you do want to send anything long or big, then, you know, send an email to obgchat@gmail.com. And Justice, by the way, you're posting a hell of a lot of stuff in the OBG group, and I thought you might have taken a hint. You've posted about 50 things, and I've only ever published one of them. So it's a tough place to try and get anything published if it's not on point with what I'm trying to put across. And they're all fantastic ideas, what you have, don't get me wrong, so I'm not ever going to knock what you're doing. It's fantastic. But like yourself, and I'm not going to talk about what you post, I'm not trying to embarrass you, I'm just trying to explain live while you're here, and anyone else. Yes, I get it. You know, they're treating women bad in Namibia, and they're not allowing people to get water in Mexico and so on. But I'm not that news channel. I'm not going to be publishing those stories right now. I'm trying to grow with the ideas that I'm sharing. Let's talk about those And then when I'm massive, when we're massive, because it is a show about the people, by the people, for the people, then I can talk about those issues. It's important, but I'm aware of them just as you are. And it's important that I have to share some of them with people, which I do, but I'm not a repository for news or the world's ills, and I'm not going to publish what everyone throws at me, because I get about 10 a day and in that group. And people just keep on sending them. I think I've got about 400 unpublished, and people keep on sending them. I don't think they take the hint. And you and 2 other people, I think I've only ever published, 1 each of yours. I will do more in the future, trust me. But I think save your time and energy. When I'm ready to start publishing your stuff, I'll invite you in, because your stuff's very, very interesting. And one you sent particularly the other day, which I accepted, was very good. I think people needed to hear that. Right, okay, so Justice says, I even talk like children on serious news items, and the politicians are like talking like kids to people. Absolutely. That's because they know we've got these childlike minds. They've been watching us for so long. They can see how we're communicating. They can see what we're watching on television. They know, or they can infer from that our moods and our mental state and so on. And they can talk to us like children. And I think we are very childlike. Even, I include myself. But I'm trying to break out of it, because I think there's no this is what you must do because you're an adult, in the sense of, okay, it's a defined number, 18 or 21, but we have to be as smart as the people that are controlling us. Otherwise, they're always going to treat us like children. And I think we're all guilty of that. We know, and I think you've admitted to yourself, okay, try and drag everyone down with me and my bad habits. I think a lot of people do the same. When you're people who are kind of what you call on your level, you love that best. Oh, these people are on the level, blah, blah, blah. Oh, we get on, we've got a lot in common. But if someone's way above you, and we sometimes think that no matter how great we are or think we are, then we tend not to gel with them. And if someone's what we sometimes see is below us, and it's not true, we're all pretty much the same human being, but it's about the education that we take for the world that we live in. And sometimes we look down on those people. Someone who's really can't have a conversation with you, and they don't talk much about stuff, and whatever, and you kind of and you don't feel comfortable with that person. You tend to not have many friends that way, and so on. And what I'm saying is, when those people sometimes move, and I see it as upwards, as wider, however you want to see it, and we meet them, we can meet in the middle. But often, if people are very, very childlike in whatever way, and I don't mean having fun and that, people like fun childlike states, but education-wise and knowing their world around them, I think we're a bit unforgiving of them. And this is what the people above us do. They see us as nothing because we don't have their education. And I think it's important to keep on learning. And this is why I talk about the liberal arts. If you go back and search your shows, look for the liberal arts shows, and I've discussed those in some detail, and I think they're very important. If you've got young kids, teach them about the liberal arts. Okay, and on that note, thanks for coming in tonight, guys. And remember, the most important thing of all, you are amazing. And I am the OBG. That didn't work.